Good evening, everyone. So welcome back to Bharat Connect's another edition of the panel discussion where we are going to be discussing with Mr. Fossey. We are going to welcome back Fossey, who was there with us earlier last year, and Mr. Virender. So the topic for the today's discussion is how do you build agility in your customer service, right? So what do we mean by the agility, and how why we are talking about it, what is the importance and what are the challenges? So we have a perfect panelist with us today to walk us through and clarify and share their experiences, and that should make our understanding better and clarify. So I would encourage all of you to keep all your questions, and then feel free to ask that questions towards the end. We are going to have a good amount of time for asking the questions, and whatever it is, right? Even if it is not related, somewhere related or somewhere not related, it's okay. Feel free to ask. So we'll try our level best to clarify, because that's the whole idea of having this discussion and the meeting. So and all the discussion points here, as I always mention, it is just pointers that we thought based on the discussions with the community, these all are the important discussion points that we want to highlight and take input from the experts, right? That's the whole idea. So it's not like a question or anything, but it's more of a the discussion points. So so panelists can please feel free to touch upon using that point, whatever the related experiences that you would have had and everything. So it's totally acceptable in that way. So we were supposed to have one more panelist today, but due to some last minute leadership meeting, he's not here, Mr. Anthony. But so we'll take it forward and then see if Anthony can join us some other time in future, one of the events. So without the further ado, let me introduce two of our panelists. So first, let me start with Virender. So Virender has 3 decades of experience, 30 years plus. So excellent track record, and 100% into marketing, sales. So he has lots of insights on the advertisement, and lots of different industries also he has served into. Currently, he is in president of sales and marketing at World Infracons. So Virender, you have been helping the startups and everything, so innovative with the marketing and everything. So we want to thank you very much for being with us today, and we welcome to we are here eager to wait to hear from your insights. Thank you so much, sir, and welcome to the panel discussion.
My pleasure to be here today, and whatever little knowledge I have, I'm able to share with the wider community at large. It's a great honor for myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And so the other panelist, Fossey, I would want to say, welcome back, Fossey. So thanks so much for coming again and joining us and helping us to understand some more and share your experiences. So Fossey, has been in the business for almost 2 decades now. So 10 plus years of out of the 2 is in the customer success, in the fintech especially, because as we all know, fintech is one of the hottest industry, especially in India, and it's going through a lot of challenging growth, and at the same time the challenges, and then some kind of regulations and whatnot. So navigating all this difficult time, and making sense out of it, and then bringing the best out of the team, and being a market leader. And it's just a tremendous experience that he has gained working closely with a lot of the founders and teams like a Phonefee, so from the scratch. So he has he's a tech enthusiastic and has successfully created models to maximize capacity and increase efficiency through process engineering and technological changes. thereby reducing the cost. So he has like a not just throwing out new technology, like being able to understand the technology and use the right one in the right place and keep the cost lower, at the same time, like give the better customer service and things like that. So that's an excellent combination, and like where we could get a lot of our answers for the questions. Okay, so Fasi, we look forward to your views on bringing agility to customer service. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Welcome.
Uthaman, my pleasure to join you guys back for yet another event. Looking forward for these interesting topics on agility and other questions related to customer experience and how we can form a better ecosystem. So looking forward for that. Thanks for inviting me on this.
So the pleasure is all on us. So thank you so much. So let me just give a 1 or 2 minute walkthrough of defining or what we are trying to do, and giving an example. So if you think about casinos, right? Casinos, if you think about what comes to our mind is lots of people and happy people and moving here and there and playing different games, trying out, and then you always hear some sound going on in the background. Somebody's winning money. It's like a kind of really happening place, and where people love to go and spend some time. There are so many people are regular going to casinos again and again because they just love the way how it is how they are able to enjoy their time. So if you think about it, actually, when you go to a casino, it's not that a lot of people are making money, right? It's not that way. So how a casino is able to create that kind of environment, right? And how they are able to keep everybody happy, right? So the way how they are coming up with some of the offers, either giving a free night or giving them access to some of the games, or whatever the freebies are, they're mixing it up in their promotions. They are really doing a good job in keeping customers keep coming in and be participate in what they are doing, and bring building their loyalty, because they need a repetitive customers, and and they are satisfied, and keep it going. So engine. So there are a lot of things to learn from casinos industries as such, how they do the whole thing and how they're using the technology and everything, right? So with that thought in mind, so let's go into some of the discussion points and see what our panelists have to share from their own experiences, right? Financials and the real estate and the different world. So let's dive into some of the discussion points here, right? So the first discussion point. So we will go to Virender. So the discussion point is like this. Customer journeys are horizontal, which means all organizations function will have to move together to help meet customer expectations. This requires a collaborative culture, and it all adds up as a total customer experience, right? So how do you make the collaboration seamless, allowing your customer facing reps to address ever changing customer expectation? Because actually speaking, the reps are the one taking the whole brunt of everything, right? I mean, when a customer calls you, most likely they may not be happy, right? They had some issue. So when they so how do you think this scenario is working out, sir?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we face this very often in the real estate segment, where you've been trying to develop a particular project or over the years. Therefore, you have a lot of dissatisfied customers who will walk in and say, are you really going to complete this project? How long do I need to wait with my money or with my investment? Now, yes, you are right. The frontline people have to face this brunt. And to a great extent, they do not have adequate answers which are available with them to address these issues.
Okay.
A, because they are not competent enough to address the issues. B, because they do not have adequate knowledge of what is going to happen in the future. They live in the present and dwell slightly into the past. Okay. Now, when we are talking about agility, this is where we need to start moving in and empowering them with knowledge. Now, that knowledge could be something which could be done through training or otherwise, so that they are at least able to satisfy the customer to a certain extent. I wouldn't say they will be able to satisfy totally. And whatever the traditional method is used, that means it is escalated to the next level. They would have to continue doing that. Nevertheless, now with the changing environment, the customer is at least a bit at ease before he goes to the next level. Okay. Today, we have just come out of COVID, or we are about to come out of COVID. Now, in this transition, there are a lot of realignment strategies that need to be worked out. We would actually need to use a lot of internet-based, digital-based platforms wherein we could answer most of the queries of the customer, because the customer is not only scared to venture out till now, but he is also got used to his own personal space where he wants everything to be answered in that space itself. So from the perspective of the organization and industry, we also need to empower ourselves to reach him where he's at most, he's at ease to understand things better. I think Fasin's input would be required on this.
Yeah, sure. Fasi, you want?
Yeah. Thanks, Virender. I think some very mature thoughts on that. What I have observed in the last few years is, there's always a perspective of the organizations or the startup companies who are driving the way customer experience is delivered to their customers, right? So what I mean by this is, when you know that an organization is really hard pressed on reducing the cost, keeping a very lean CS, right? They can't afford to actually run conventional call center kind of shops having a large number of people. One of the simplest measures is that, let us say that a startup is actually scaling up 10x in a year. You cannot actually have a 10x staffing done on CS. Then you're actually linearly adding on people and you're not doing a great job, right? So there's that perspective of these founders and the perspective of these companies where it's driven that, okay, what can we do to actually reduce cost? Then you're actually kind of shaping up your entire CS ecosystem in a way that the volumes are consumed, the customer queries are answered, they are resolved, but yet they aren't burning enough, burning a lot of money, right? Now this has actually pushed some of the organizations to actually start self-serve, start something which is automated responses. And to a large extent, I think, the customers' behavior is also changing with that, because, customers don't have a choice. They don't have a number even on the app or on the website where they can actually reach out to the organization. Yeah. So this is one. What I would suggest is that, an organization needs to balance it out, right? It's not always that you actually look at cost and drive the behavior with your customers and with your merchants, right? Sometimes it may be acceptable, sometimes it may not be acceptable, right? You will lose out a lot of them. But sometimes people just stick on because they actually like the kind of product that you are giving, or a specific service that you're giving. But from a experience standpoint, right, what the organization should ideally look at is probably try to understand what are the kind of customers or are the kind of merchants that they are actually catering the business to. For example, they should have a clear understanding of what percentage of the customers are young millennials, and what percentage of customers are very senior and who would require a call to get their queries answered. Now, if you see that the millennials are higher on number, then you probably shape up your ecosystem that way, right? But if you see that there is a significant amount of senior citizens, or people who are aged, who are part of your ecosystem, and they are the people who are taking your products, or the other people who are actually taking your services, then I think you should have a right balance of it, right? You should actually provide those self-service options, but yet also allow people to actually call and speak to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So this is one thing. And in a longer run, agility should be very clearly understood by organizations. Agility does not only mean that you are actually preparing your customer experience shops for a change, but also be futuristic in thinking in terms of where the industry is moving. For example, if you are into a fintech space, how are customers there getting addressed? How are they getting answered? Is there a better way that we can actually provide a service, or a better experience to the customers and merchants, right? So these are a few things, and we can discuss more on some similar topics.
Yeah. Thanks, Fuzzy. Actually, we are getting there. Actually, you have started answering the next question. So the next discussion point, what we are thinking is, so there are some most repetitive transactional queries that are handled by self-service capabilities of customer service function, right? So you need agents only to handle a complex and critical transaction, right? And how do you empower your agents to handle complex queries, and how do you skill them to do that? Because we kind of know what to do, but there is still some challenges in making sure this happens the right way. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think most organizations think of their customers and merchants, and or constantly keep reinventing, or making changes on the product, making changes on their services. But they actually oversee, or they miss out on what are the agents challenges or executive challenges that are day in and out. They need to take a breath. There should be a dedicated team who's constantly watching out. What are the kind of queries coming in? How are the agents empowered? Do they have the information easily available? Or is it that they have to search 3-4 different systems, and they have to bring a summary out for the customer? I was in conversation with one of the automation companies, right? The common problem that we see with agents is, or with executives, is that they would have to actually navigate more than 2 or more than 3 screens and try to get information. In some cases, it's over 5-6 screens, and that's not a very great experience for the executives who are actually supporting the customers and merchants, right? You need to make their life easy. So I was in conversation with one of these automation companies who actually automates this piece, and brings all the 5 things, or all the 5 systems together, and in a very simple way to the employees, or to the executives are actually catering to customers and merchants. I think if something like that can be done, it's going to really help the executives who are handling the queries. The second thing is, I think we need to empower our people with a lot of conceptual clarity, right? When I say conceptual clarity, sometimes they just get on to answering calls or answering emails, but they don't understand the concept as to why even the product or why even this particular feature existed or exists, in the product or in the website. If they can understand the ecosystem thoroughly in terms of, what are the endpoints, where does it connect, how does it go, that conceptual clarity should be given at the very, very initial stage. And we need to encourage our people to learn more and more about these concepts, right? And then usage of CS systems is something that over a period of time, people will anyways get used to and get better, right? But there should be a constant endeavor from, organizations to actually make the life easy, make the information readily available, easily available for the agents. So this is one thing, right? Of course, training and, conventional process trainings, conventional product trainings are there, but we can do a lot more there.
Yeah. Rightly said that. Yeah. Thanks, Vasina. Okay, so now switch back to Virender for the next discussion point. So that is the pandemic saw multi-fold increase in collaboration platform usage, right? Organizations scampered to make sure that they could address customer issues from whatever they are and whatever they could lay their hands on, right? So wherever they are, sorry. So the challenge was not able to go into office and being in home and being able to still get the information that they would get otherwise when they are in office, and still be able to answer the questions for their customers, right? So it was about survival, right? Which is not the case anymore. So now we are coming out of it. So how do you sustain a customer service function with a hybrid working and possibly integration across the board, right? What kind of a technology infrastructure do you think is right, given the situation we're coming out of that pandemic? And
a lot of questions in one question, and a lot of thoughts in a single question. Now, yes, pandemic has changed all our lives, whether it is from the customer's point of view, whether it is from the agent's point of view,
yeah,
or the company's own way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
We have seen transition from single space to multiple spaces. We have seen real-time supporting getting more and more real.
Yeah.
We have seen people using social media in a much, much more elaborate and extensive manner than they would do it earlier.
Yeah.
Even self-service has now started evolving.
Yeah.
Today, if we look at any of the OTT platforms, we find that the consumption of video has increased. Even on social media, the video content has increased. Maybe in our line of CS, we would have to adapt this to make it more convenient, more satisfactory for our customers to answer their queries on an immediate basis. Earlier, if I wanted to understand a certain function, I would literally have to go to the particular organization, sit down with a person and understand that function. Today, I do not have the time. I can just go on to one of the sites, pick up a video, or maybe even the company site, pick up the video, understand it. Even if I have certain queries, I can call them up, get the query solved, and everything is done in a jiffy. So the movement now that we see is more towards video, more towards AI-based chatbots, which are becoming more and more powerful across all websites, across all the internet is full of chatbots. Wherever you go, you find a chat. Okay. So ultimately, everything will boil down to cloud-based and mobile screen-based information systems, whether it's going to be from the agent's perspective or from the client's perspective. This is what I foresee and what I understand from the little knowledge that I have in this space.
Yeah, it's true, actually. So we are encountering more and more chatbots. Like nowadays, they even come up with some names, right? So they're incredible, right? They have come a long way, and they still have a long way to go. So it's very good. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
And digital can never be a single channel. It has to be omni-channel.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
omni-channel is only going to work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so Fasi, so next one, next discussion point, the ton of data you already have available, and a ton is getting added on an everyday basis, right? From the customers survey or employee survey, metrics that you measure and scores you assign, like whatever the way it is, right? This data is expected to provide many insights into the desired customer behavior. How do you leverage this data proactively to understand customer expectations, and how do you build your capabilities internally to handle them? I know you are like doing a lot of this analytics day in day out and coming up with some kind of making some sense out of it. So if you could throw some light on this one, that would be good.
I think back about 20 years back, right? People thought that customer service is equal to call centers, and people said, it wasn't a dignified job to go and work in a call center because the demand was such high. India trying to become the back office for the world, and specifically catering to the American and the UK markets, and people felt that it's all about just going and picking up a headset and answering calls, and the demand was such high that people who were just 12th passed, or even 10th passed, were able to get a job, and were able to go and answer some calls, right? But I think the world has really moved on, and in specifically the space, right, the customer experience space has really matured up. And today I have worked with organizations where we have highly skilled people in many different spaces. Specifically, when you talk about customer experiences, a specific team on what you call it as the workforce management and planning of staffing, which really looks into a lot of science in terms of what is the count of heads that you need to have on a Monday versus a Tuesday, or a morning 10 o'clock versus an afternoon at about 3 o'clock. All this is through data and analytics, right? In terms of looking at what numbers at a business level are shaping up versus what is the count of volumes that are coming in, right? So this is one thing. And you have another team which is specifically on the analytics and the AI, which is shaping up in the market. And this wasn't there about a decade back, right? Now we're looking at, specifically how can we actually reduce the volumes that are coming in. Volumes actually on CS means that there is pain on the other side, right? The merchants and customers are going through the pain. So how do you reduce that? First of all, try and understand what kind of queries that are coming in, what are your top drivers, and based on the top drivers, try to devise a plan in terms of how could you actually solve these problems at the root. How do you actually kind of give these feedbacks to the product teams, or to specific vendors or the merchants who are associated to this problem, and say that hey, what, we need this to be fixed because our customers or merchants are going through this problem, right? I was working with a PSP where we had an option for recharges to happen, the mobile recharges to happen, and when the recharges were happening, the volumes were actually going really high, right? And when we understood that these volumes are high because the recharges were happening, and the recharges were not successfully getting through, and customers were reaching out to us and asking for an operator ID or a confirmation from this particular service provider. So we had to gather all that information, go back to the service provider, sit with the service provider, try to solve that problem at the root, right? So using this analytics at a very, very basic level, you are solving some big problems for the organization. Now, talking about futuristic in terms of, how can you bring AI into the space? How can you get better? Believe me, I mean, the analytics that is available right now with of customers in the online or the digital space is far much higher and superior compared to the brick and mortar businesses. People running businesses like the supermarkets would not have that kind of an intelligence where an online e-commerce company would have, right? And absolutely what is the kind of demography of people that are coming in, what are the kind of product choices that they are making, associating to the age group and to the kind of product choices that they are making. You're actually building AI. Similarly, on the customer experience side, right, you're actually trying to understand what are the kind of issues that a specific age group is coming up with. Is that to do with the product not matching the expectations of that particular age group, or is it that an additional feature that they are looking for because they used it on a gaming platform and they expect that to happen on a fintech kind of a space and stuff like that, right? All this is through a lot of analytics and AI that you can build in, and you can actually start thinking from a futuristic perspective and start delivering better experience than just doing conventional CS work. Yes. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way to put it that way. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So next two discussion points, we'll have both of you to share your thoughts. So Virender, will start with you. So given the hybrid work, will be the norm, right, going forward. So you will have a part of your talents always working from remote or home. What kind of a technology infrastructure is appropriate to address this the growing need? What have you already implemented? I know you're coming from the sales and marketing, but if you could talk about from your experience, what have been done, and then maybe Fossey can get into that the technology part more in deep.
See, if we talk about real estate per se, right now in real estate, we have not integrated technology to a great extent. Okay. Because the demand is still at a very nascent stage post-COVID. Okay. But yes, what we have upped is interaction through social media, use of chatbots, and use of some sort of a AI system through which we can accumulate data, analyze that data, and try and get to the right person at the right time. Right. Time is an essence for commercial real estate in a big way. Okay. If somebody is interested in something and you don't reach him, he can always change his mind because the investment part is in his hand. And investment is a calculated decision, no doubt, but with various options, the movement could be faster, right? Mm-hmm. So for us, the challenge is to identify that person who is there sitting ready to invest and reach him at that nth moment when he is about to invest. Mm-hmm. This is the greatest challenge that we are facing, and we are still, as you started the entire discussion, we are still agile and we are still trying to identify what is going to work best for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fossey, you want to touch on the technology side on this? Appropriate.
I think first of all, right, there again, there are two perspectives specifically when you're talking about work from home, right? One perspective is the organization's perspective of, what more can they do for the employees two things here, specifically on the employer side, right? One, how and what can they facilitate with for the employees, making them feel that they are at office, using high-end, videography, using platforms which are seamless, which makes you feel that you're actually, sitting with your colleagues while you're actually online, right? And these are things that, a lot of the organizations have been really focusing on. They aren't minding, spending a lot of money doing that, right? And quite a few organizations have even decided on a long-term, work from home. And for them, this becomes very, very critical to have, a very, very nice experience delivered or given to their employees. Secondly, the employer side, on the employer side is how can they ensure that the productivity or the quality of work does not suffer, right? At times, it so happens that the amount of people that they would have actually hired, the amount of work that gets delivered is far much lesser, right? So from a technology perspective, I remember, working with one of the, neo-banking startups previously, where we really wanted to kind of monitor and see what amount of work is coming through. And what we did was, with a non-voice kind of a space, we actually built another layer of a platform or a software where we could technically see every single work, every single piece of work that was happening, the number of times that the person was walking out of the system, the number of times that he was going on a meeting mode and discussing. We could even evaluate the amount of time that he was actually spending on a particular case or across specific category of cases. So we could even have training intervention saying that, hey, you know what, on this particular category, I think this particular employee is struggling. So we could pass on that intelligence to the training team, and the training team could actually have those training interventions. So that is one more thing. And we could also look at the overall time that he has spent on the tickets, answering those tickets, versus the time that he was on breaks and doing non-productive work, right? So this is more from the employer perspective, where some employers really want to deliver a great experience and therefore deliver and provide a very, very good ecosystem for their employees, right? And on the other side, getting the productivity from the user, from a perspective of employee engagement. It's all here again, the technology is kicking in, and I'm glad to say that organizations including Cash Free have actually started AI based automation based employee engagement, which means that we've hired a bot. So a bot can actually and is ready 24/7. Should I say I have this problem, I'm suffering with this, or I need assistance in getting my dad admitted to the hospital, or I need a person whom I can speak to, and that bot is already available and who's addressing. Or if the if you go to the bot and say, hey, you know what, I have salary concerns, all right, the bot is there who's actually listening to you carefully and answering to you in the way that you want, and solving your problems, right? So all this is again technology driven. And I've been on multiple forums where the HR leaders today have started thinking of automations and AI. I was absolutely surprised about 6 months back when I actually heard this the first time, but then I saw my own organization picking that up and working on it. So which is a real good feeling, because end of the day, what you want is you want somebody to listen to you and carefully understand and solve your problems. Now this bot also does AI, where it can understand your grief, your concerns, your heartburn, through your words, through your sentiments, and then actually devise a proper response and try to solve your problems. One last thing here is that employee engagement should also be the way that you would actually speak to your brother or your sister who's abroad, and you're though it is a couple of years that they have actually physically met you, but you feel so close to them because you are on a video call with them quite often. You're discussing all the little good things that are happening on this side. You're also hearing from them what is happening in their life, right? So how is this possible in a personal relationship? But why
Yeah.
isn't that possible in an employee relationship? That can
Yeah.
also be done. This is just a mindset that the leaders should understand, that while there is work from home and people are away physically, but you guys can still connect and do a lot of meaningful connectivity.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the right way of putting it. Yeah, thanks, Kwasi. So yeah, so now that last discussion point, right? So where the B2C companies and digital natives like a gaming and entertainment are generally considered more agile than others, right? This is just a general concept, right? What is your take on this, and can you give some examples of what you or your organization have specifically done to improve agility, right? So to make it a little bit more interesting, or whatever the way. So just one or two examples what you have seen in your own industry, or it is yet to happen. Like you can share your thoughts on this. Like so Virender and both Fasi.
Yeah, Virender, you could start off with.
Yeah, I thought Fasi would take the first lead on this. Anyway, no issues. Yeah, there is lots in this space, and that could be probably done. But yeah, there are some challenges also. The challenges that I foresee is replication of human beings may not be possible at all at the end.
Mhm.
Because when we are talking about getting emotions in place, when we are talking about building up some sort of a rapport,
Yeah.
it is still there is a gap between the physical and the digital media.
Yeah.
That bridging that gap, maybe in the next decade or so, we may be able to bridge that also, which I don't know, which I'm not aware about.
Mhm.
You all are in the technology space, you all may be able to come up with solutions on that. We never thought we could land on the moon, but we did. We never thought we could go through a pandemic, and we all managed to sail past in the pandemic, right? But yes, today's current challenges are varied. It differs from industry to industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And each industry has to adopt what is best for them, given in the limited space that they are operating and limited technology that is available with them to use at present.
Okay.
So with that, I would love to hear Fasi speak on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thanks. Uthman, I'm just kind of clarifying the question. You talked about, some examples of agility, how in my space that, we built, and, what did we adopt to, right? I have various examples of, how we actually brought in agility and, speed to the game, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to kind of quote this once again. I've spoken on this topic in multiple forums. See, experience does not start when the customer is actually facing a problem, or the merchant is facing a problem and he raises a ticket with us. The experience starts from the very first step that he takes towards your organization. It's the first click on your website, or it is the first click on your app or the product, and that's where your experience starts. And you need to get agile from there, right? It's how fast or how soon are you able to actually build changes on your product? How fast are you able to bring changes onto your service strategy? How fast are you able to modulate with market changes, right? This is very important. Let me give you an example of an e-commerce space, right? There were over 28 to 30% of calls coming in on one of India's largest e-commerce companies that I've worked with. And these calls were specifically just by the customers to understand where their order is,
Yeah.
right? And this was, I'm talking about a good 8-9 years back.
Okay.
You know, this wasn't, you know, giving any good feeling for the customers, you know, having to wait on the line, trying to speak to somebody and stuff like that. What did the organization do? You know, with feedback from our teams, you know, we started building that visibility on the order itself in terms of, you
Yeah.
know, where your order is. Has the
Yeah.
order, you know, got approved? Then there is, you know, an approval that is seen. And then as the order got, you know, shipped, packed, you know, that was actually shown.
Okay.
Has it got shipped? Has it got, you know, is it out for delivery? What is the timeline? And for each of these milestones, you know, as you must have actually bought online, this is what
Yeah.
we, you know, immediately brought in, right?
Yeah.
So you're actually changing, you know, you're actually, you know, analyzing things, what is happening, and, you know, immediately adopting to that. And we realize that, you know, people are not the same people who are going in the offline space and, you know, picking up things, and they are not looking for that. They're actually coming online because they want to save time. And why would they spend time just to know where the order is? You know, you're actually adopting to this change, and, you know, and you're trying to make changes into your own ecosystem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And talking about you know, the fintech space, and, you know, where we were able to bring some kind of an agility is, you know, with disruption. You know, I'm again quoting this word disruption, you know, where you see a hockey stick kind of a growth. You did not expect a 20x growth or a 40x growth, you know, over in about a year's time. And you see that, you know, the business is rapidly growing, and you just cannot grow, or you cannot just make big teams just to cater to those volumes, right? So keeping cost aside, right, more from a perspective of being able to consume all of those volumes, or to be able to you know, answer every single question that is coming through, what kind of, you know, ecosystem in the CS side are you creating, and how fast are you adopting to those changes that are happening, right? And there's also another, you know, story of we adding more and more features on the product, you know,
Yeah.
more and more, you know, services on the product. And
Mhm.
if the customer service team or the customer experience team is not, you know, quickly picking up on those changes, not being able to answer those questions on the new features, those, you know, issues that are new to us because, you know, there's a new product release, then, you know, we will be left behind, you know. So we need to build those kind of changes, and, you know, one of the ways is adopt to you know, multiple platforms. Virendra spoke about omni-channel, right? You know, if you are trying to reach out to somebody, say for example, you know, you don't need people to actually call out, to be called out and to spoken to, right? You have various channels by which you can actually communicate. One of them is maybe a voice bot. You know, you're actually reaching out to a person for a verification to happen. The guy isn't responding, so what happens is the voice bot actually, you know, first of all, if it connects, he speaks to the customer on the other side, and, you know, gets some verification done. And based on the kind of responses that the customer gives, you know, we know that, you know, we've got this verified, absolutely, right? And if let's say that, you know, the customer is busy and he isn't responding, or maybe he's even disconnecting this call that is going through, you know, then automatically the messaging or the WhatsApp kicks in, and some communication goes on WhatsApp and says, hey, we tried reaching you, we wanted to verify this, request you to click this particular link and fill in these details and submit, so that, you know, we go ahead and activate this particular service or a product for you, right? So bringing in these kind of things, services within the customer's experience ecosystem will bring more speed, reduce the load which is coming on the
Yes.
human beings, and, you know, we should be able to adopt to you know, the changes that are happening at the organization level or at the industry level, right? So those are
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
I would like
Yeah.
to add something over here,
Yeah.
if you permit.
Yes.
See, while we are talking about all this,
Yeah.
I think we should also look into an aspect where if I'm a customer and
Mhm.
if I have come to a particular number and
Okay.
I've called in, whether that is artificial or human, if I'm speaking to that person,
Mhm.
I know that I'm speaking to an organization. Therefore, I want my answer there and then itself and not be shuffled around to various departments. coming to this point, maybe we could be looking at some sort of a collaborative culture within the organization wherein all necessary information that the customer would be looking at, whether it is from accounts, whether it's from dispatch, whether it's from production or whichever department, is available at a single source. That builds a better satisfaction towards the customer service that we are providing.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. That would be the most ideal way of responding back to any customer queries. Yeah, if you can put these things together and able to clarify them in one shot, right? So that's the best way of dealing with it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of all the discussion points, and now we'll open up the floor for the questions. So do we, audience, please feel free and go ahead with the questions, and so we are here to clarify. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure. Highlight.
Yeah. So when the call centers are moving to tier 2 or tier 3 cities, so the training them will be a biggest challenge. That is what I think. So how to come over this? What will be the best way to deal that?
Okay. So Fasi, you want to?
Yeah. First of all, I wanted to understand, are these training happening remotely, or are you having on-site presence where your trainer is going and getting them trained? What space are you looking at?
On-site training.
On-site training. Okay. What is the key challenge that you are currently facing? Because there are multiple challenges with tier 2 and tier 3, right? If you can just specify 1 or 2 challenges, then I can have a specific answer or a solution provided.
So they will not be having a much more exposure to the call centers compared to tier 1. So that is what.
Absolutely. I think there is another term that I would like to coin, which is called as contextual familiarity, right? While they are call centers sitting in tier 2 or a tier 3, but they are addressing the tier 1 market. They are speaking to users who are much more superior in their their usage, the way they actually speak, the way they think, and matching that wavelength becomes a big challenge, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the best ways is to, first of all, have a very detailed product training given to them, making them understand of what the concept is, and make them feel that end of the day the people on the other side are human beings, right? And now talk about the various contextual scenarios, or what are the various kind of issues that the customers or the merchants face, and for each of these scenarios, how should they react, how should they speak, right? This is one thing that you need to really carve out, and as many scenarios as possible, if you could list down and carefully take them through, run some mock sessions, see how they are actually responding to that. That's one. And another important thing is that you teach them how to actually pick a few things which is from an emotional standpoint, right? The level of EQ or emotional quotient will be far much lesser in a tier 2, tier 3, because they being able to emotionally match up to what on the other side, a tier 1 guy or a person who's a millennial who's on the other side to to be addressed, is going to be two different things, right? So if you are able to pick some scenarios, pick some phrases, pick some words, and talk to them and tell them, hey, you know what, this means that this is what it is, right? You could actually state those examples and tell them, if somebody says, cool, I'll take care, right? What does that mean? Hey, you mean to say this is all that you can do? Oh, okay. Well, that's a great service, but it didn't solve my problem, right? So the guy hearing just great service and not hearing the other sentence means that he's going to really bug the customer off, and he's going to make the user feel very bad about it, right?
Yeah.
Talking about the various scenarios, talking about those phrases, those idioms, those sentences will actually help the people. So you're culturally kind of elevating them and telling them this is what our customers on the other sides are. Hope that answers your question, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks, Vasi. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Uthaman, this is Deepak here. So it's like a question to you, right? Like the question is like, let's say, let us consider a case where like the industry or like the industry where the firm operates is a retail industry. Let's take an case example of an apparel or any other platform where like it is more based on like the product rather than the service that they are going to offer, right? So let's say because of financial crunch, let's say to avoid blocking the money on the retail part, they're planning to go on an online platform where to select whether through e-commerce platforms, right? So how do we ensure that like the customer experience is not hindered here, and let's say the value that the retailer is trying to provide is getting transferred through these channels? So how do we address these issues?
Okay.
Yeah. Uthaman, you want me to take this question now?
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question, Deepak, largely you're talking about a guy who's delivered a great experience on his offline store, but he's now going online. How does he deliver a great experience there? Is that so?
Let's say, let us consider a case from 0 to 1, not from like the person that's already established. So he's starting from scratch, and let's say he wants to like, he knows like if he goes on a retail platform, let's say on an offline channel, the business is more promising when compared to an online platform. But he cannot invest as much as like where he can park his money on, let's say, the stores or let's say the inventory that he has, right? So he cannot park the money there. Like he wants to rotate the inventory as such instead of putting it on a retail area. So how do we go about it?
Got it. I think, see, my, suggestion or an advice to beginners is than actually having your own online store immediately, right? Try to be a seller on one of the marketplaces, right? Hope you guys understand what marketplaces are by this time, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, and for the audience, marketplaces are specifically like malls where a lot of sellers come and sell on that mall. Likewise, Flipkart today or Amazon today are marketplaces where a lot of sellers come and sell their products. So my advice to a person who's just beginning his journey should actually be to be a seller there and try to experience what customers online are. Try to understand how the ecosystem works, how are the packaging done, how is delivery done, how is returns taken care of, how are refunds made, and stuff like that. Here you have got a full-fledged a setup by let's say for example Flipkart, who's actually providing the first mile experience and also the last mile experience, while you actually focus on just getting the products made available and just on a click of a button saying that, hey, I've received this order and I've got this product available, or I've got my product in stock and I've packed it, it's ready for delivery, right? And the guy comes, picks it up and does. Now coming back, to your thing in terms of, what does he need to do when he has to create his own online store? This is also happening. We have a lot of merchants on cash free, where we have people who are individually doing businesses, selling things online, right? Now here, you need to be a little careful of what you want to really focus on. If you really want to focus on sales, you don't really need to bother about the other pieces that can come as a plug and play, right? Which means that you can just go for somebody who can take care of your deliveries, somebody who could actually take care of your website, and somebody who could take care of your payments. You can come to cash free. Cash free is a very promising payment company for startups, and you can actually rely on us. You don't need to start and you don't need to do everything by yourself, right? You can actually focus on the core product sales, look at your catalog, and look at what you want to put on the website, work with those website companies and focus on that. But here you need to be very, very careful of the entire life cycle of an order, right? You should not miss out on that. You should think of, where and all could be, unhappy flow where things go wrong, and what should you be doing here? When should you actually initiate a return, or you should approve a return, and when should you initiate a refund? All of this needs to be very clearly laid out, and then you need to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Fasi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Deep. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? We're almost the end of our time. So I think anyone? Okay. Yeah, so we are almost at the end of the time. So if you have more questions, please feel free to send. We will get the response from our panelists, and we'll get back to you. So so even if we run out of time, that's still okay. Okay. So let's to thank our panelists and for their great time and effort to to be here during this their precious time and helping us understand and share their experience and thoughts on this the subject. So thank you so much, sir, Virender sir, and so we will be in touch, and we will look forward to meet you again in some other topic and discussion on some other different timings. So in future, thank you so much, sir. And we would like to looking forward to meet you again in person also.
Thank you so much.
That was a very great session, actually.
Yeah. So
quite informative.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So thank you so much, Fasi, once again, coming back and helping us to sort out a lot of these technology-related questions, and your experience is more valuable. And definitely, some of our customers are our members are thinking about how to handle the payment, and they would go for cash free, I suppose. So we would we wish you all the best, and yeah. So
yeah, definitely.
Talk to you many more times in the future. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure being once again on this forum, Uthaman. Thanks for inviting me. Some very interesting questions. I did not expect something related to e-commerce or a tier 3 training kind of a question, but lovely. I hope I was able to answer and I was able to benefit to the the person asking the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks everybody for joining in.
Thanks everyone.
Have a great evening. Thanks, Uthaman. We'll connect again. Virender, very nice meeting you, and God bless.
Same
very
here.
nice and very nice connecting. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Fasi. Thanks, Virender.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone, audience.